Getting started a little bit late. Board members, just so you know, we are back to the old microphone system, so please make sure that you hit the button that says push so that you can be heard. And with that, let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any addenda to the agenda this evening?
We do not have any.
With that, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
May I have a second? Mike, can you confirm that Trustee Steinbach is on Zoom?
I'm here and I can hear
She
you.
is. Thank you.
Can we check if she is able to be heard?
Can you hear me?
Trustee Steinbach, can you speak to us and let us know that we can hear you audibly?
Yes, I am speaking to you now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yep, sure can. Awesome. Thank you. All right. With that, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as presented. Do we need to have any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. First thing will be a report from our student representatives to the board.
So one of the things that went out was regarding how your peers feel they are ready for post high school activities. And so if you want to have an opportunity to kind of share, and actually I'm going to have you use the microphone since I don't have the other good mics in front of you. If you could go up there and just give a brief kind of thought process on that question, if you and what your thoughts are regarding that. And whoever would like to go first, jump at the opportunity.
Okay, hello, I'm Kate Shalriff. I'm a junior at Linglefort Laramie High School. And when I asked my peers if they felt prepared to graduate, the majority answer honestly shocked me a lot. Everyone said no. I asked for reasons to support their answers. Here are some of the reasons that they had come up with. The first reason was taxes. They didn't feel prepared for the outside world or any outside situations. They were not mentally ready. They didn't want to leave friends and family behind. We don't have enough help on understanding huge situations or decisions. They're not ready for a higher level of education and the pressure on making important decisions. I would like to share with you the most common answers, as I just did. Now, hold on. Now, this last one is something that was hard to agree on, but was also an issue that is visible within our school. We are not strict enough on our school is giving us too much leeway and we're not sticking to our rules and our deadlines. For instance, our phones. A lot of teachers let us sit on our phones even though it's something that was just talked about, and they do not stick to our deadlines as much as they should. They'll have a deadline and they'll extend it and extend it and extend it because either we're not paying attention in class, they just feel like we need more time even though we don't because we're not paying attention in class, or we're just visibly sitting there on our phones not paying attention. So with this, our schools truly aren't preparing us enough 100% for real life or our futures after graduation.
Thank you. Very insightful. We appreciate it. Casey?
Hello, I'm Casey Kosmiski from Southeast High School. When I asked my peers what they thought, I got a little bit of yes and no. So my yes reasons are students have work experience with what they want to do in college to help prepare. The college classes that EWC provides for us really helps with preparation, what college classes are like, and helps to get the early credits out of the way so college isn't as overwhelming. Students are ready for the next level of education and have been prepared to have self-confidence or that they are ready for college. Teachers have taught students to be responsible with turning in their work on time. Teachers also try to relate as much stuff as they can back to college to help prepare the students. Students are confident with doing the schoolwork, but might need a little bit more preparation. Some of my no answers are that students feel they are not ready because college is way stricter and there are not as many retakes or if any. High school is way more flexible with their times than college will be, and having more classes to help with life skills during high school before leaving for college could help the students so when they are on their own.
Thank you. Aaron?
Hi, I'm Aaron Dykes. I asked my classmates, my peers, about some questions regarding the board's question about if they're ready to graduate, and it was a pretty broad question, so I have 3 different areas I went off of and asked some questions about these areas. First is academic preparedness, second is social and emotional readiness, and third is career and life skills. In terms of academic preparedness, my classmates felt that they were confident in their abilities to problem solve in the real world and plan to continue schooling or get a job after graduation. In terms of social and emotional readiness, my classmates felt that they were ready to manage their times and schedules themselves. Due to PRS not having a bell schedule like a traditional high school, students are required to manage their own time, and this And because they manage their own time and assignments based on deadlines set within the platform we use, they tend to get if they don't get it done, they have to retake. So they are very efficient with their time spending. In order for students to be successful at PRS, they have to be self-disciplined and self-motivated. So they get their work done on time. In terms of career and life skills, my classmates felt they had enough experience and understanding to set goals, work together with others, fulfill leadership roles, persevere, and advocate for themselves. For example, during our Monday meetings, we set goals for the week centered around our academic and wellness. So everyone's ready and keeping their goals in check. After graduation, the majority of students said they would go into college or technical schools, while the rest said they would go straight into employment or enlist in the military. The students of PRS feel they are ready to graduate and have the necessary academic, social, and life skills to contribute to society after graduation.
Great, thank you. Great job, you guys. That was your first real presentation to the board. You did a good job, so we appreciate it. Always feel free to send Mr. Kramer an email or myself if you've got any ideas of topics that you want to discuss during board meetings, okay? Awesome. Thank you, guys. Next, we'll go with the school presentation by Platte River School.
Good evening. So now I get the joy of speaking with you guys. And I just wanted to discuss with you some of the goals that we have set forth of Platte River. But I want to start off first with a quote from Joe Sanfilippo. It states, "You don't honor tradition by keeping things the same. You honor tradition by giving people who came before you something to celebrate." As a district, I feel a lot has changed over the years since I have started here. I believe we have a lot to celebrate and to be proud of as GCSD, but I want to tell you some about the great things that PRS is doing. Albeit it is a very small window, I feel we have come to great lengths in just a few short years of establishment. For those of you that don't know, that PRS was established in August of 2020. And so we have a lot to catch up with THS, LFL, and Southeast. I will say, because of all the great things, it's not because of my leadership. It is because of my staff, who are phenomenal, and my students, who I always say are the best of the best. So with that being said, the paper that is in front of you, first and foremost, you will see our mission, vision, and goals that we have set forth as a school. And this is something that when students come to PRS, they have to say that they acknowledge what our goals are and what our vision is and what our mission is, and do they agree and will they adhere to it? So with that being said, this is the data that we received via the MRA survey versus the SSIS SEL screeners, and also just other data that comes from the state. I will tell you in a short blurb that as an alternative school, we do have different guidelines that we have to adhere to in order for accreditation compared to a traditional high school. So first and foremost, when you look at the SSIS SEL screener, one of the things that we talked about was self-awareness, decision-making, self-management, motivation to learn, and relationship skills. One of the things that we discussed is making sure that students remain proficient at their levels and show growth in those levels. With a leader in me with the MRA survey, we talked about how we would like to increase. So the number you see in parentheses on that sheet is the percentage that they scored during the fall assessment. So we ask that students increase their level of personal development, increase their level of trusted relationships, and increase their level of academic self-efficacy. Some of this data, after speaking with Mr. Kramer, because our student population is so small and our staff population is so small, as Matt Daly has said before, we have such small populations, it's easy to target what people said what. So there are some parts of it that the data is inadequate, so I cannot report that. So with this, we want to increase all of those levels according to the MRA. The other part with PRS as an alternative school, we also have to do what is called a climate survey. It is administered every fall and spring. And so we are currently in the window of the spring survey. Students have started taking that this week, and that is due by the end of the month. But with a fall survey of what we got, we actually rated higher than the state and overall, as well as in terms of the two areas of staff respect and high expectations. And again, these are surveys that the students have to do according to the state. So they have one extra survey they get to do for us. In terms of, if you kind of go down to student-led practices, I am super, super proud of our students. They have took the initiative of taking leadership roles around the school to kind of help ease some of the responsibilities that staff have in terms of what they can help contribute towards PRS. And what I mean by that is they have come up with different spirit days. Sometimes I feel like they create them just to make the staff look funny, but that's fine. We're good with that. But they have created different spirit days. Also, in terms of the students, they have volunteered quite often with the backpack program with Cheryl Trimble with Compass. So I'm super proud of them for that as well. And so we actually have what we call the backpack boss as and that student is the leader of recruiting volunteers to help out with Compass Academy, because Ms. Trimble has such a limited amount of staff and students within her program as well. If you go further down in terms of the credits, so again, with PRS, students have to earn a quarter of their credits of the total credits that are required. Now, obviously, our students are doing a lot more than just the minimum number of credits for graduation. Our goal for the year is for students to receive a minimum of 4.5 credits per year. As of the fall, on average, our students are earning 3.54 credits. That is between PRS, the traditional high schools, and also EWC. In the extracurricular realm, I have these fine gentlemen that help me out with that because they participate in Southeast, THS, and LFL. So there's a lot of communication between us and these fine gentlemen here. With the next part with extracurricular, that goes also into, we have students that participate in cheer, track, choir, band. We also have students that are participating in several CTE classes through the traditional high school as well. In terms of the career and college pathway completers, we say 70% of our students will complete high school being employed in the workforce, enlisted in the military, or enrolled in the post-secondary technical or traditional schools. Over the last 2 reporting windows, I will say I got a little excited on this. But I got a little depressed and then I got a little excited. Because the first window that we saw, that according to Mr. Kramer's data, we had 7.14% completion rate. The next year, they went to 55.56. So I was pretty stinking happy. We still have a ways to go, but we're getting there. And I think that's going to be with communication, again, with the fine gentleman to my right, and also the CTE teachers that we have at the traditional high school with THS, LFL, and Southeast. In terms of post-secondary readiness, again, we have different indicators as an alternative school. According to the state, we actually exceeded the target for post-secondary readiness, although we did not meet our goal for the district, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kramer, 70%. We did exceed what it was for the state. So again, I'm super proud of our kids. On the next part, in terms of YTOP, YTOP with ACT as well, we met the alternative school target on that for YTOP. And in terms of ACT, during the 23-24 academic year, the 8 students that took the ACT, they scored an average of 18.875 as an ACT score. The goal is for our students to receive a minimum of a 17 on ACT or a 12 on work keys. The next portion in terms of graduation rates, again, we have it to where we have a 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, and 7-year. And with that, the 4-year graduation rate was at a 38.46. The 5-year was at an 80%, and the 6-year was at a 64.29. So prior to the extended graduation rate, including 4-year cohort plus all 4, 5, and 6 year, that 4, 5, 6, and 7-year graduates, that actually calculates within our data. And according to the state, PRS scored a 78, which means they met the alternative school target. On the back, if you don't mind, in terms of behavioral referrals, I'm going to put them all in lump sum of behavioral referrals, discipline data, and data entries based on academic dishonesty. As of the current date, and I hope I'm not jinxing myself, we have had 0 referrals. In terms of student participation reps, we have a fine gentleman, as you got to hear tonight, and the previous one of Mason Wilkes. So I'm super proud of Aaron taking the initiative of applying for this. He may have gotten his arm twisted just a little bit, along with Mason Wilkes. So I am proud of the 2 that we have had over the past 3 years with student board representation. In terms of student council, about 25% of our students participate in student council, which is actually amazing considering it has been very desolate. And that was something that came off the ground when I became an administrator. I went from being the THS student council sponsor to PRS student council sponsor. And now we are asking one of the staff members of our para, who is very energetic and far better at it than I am, to step into that role. And that's all I have. I was told to make it quick.
Even though you were told to make it quick, can I ask just a quick question?
But can I? Yeah, sure.
I think that there's a lot of questions or maybe misunderstanding about the application process at PRS. Can you give us just a high-level brief review of what that looks like?
Okay, I'll give you the Cliff Note version. So
Perfect.
students are required to fill out an application. First and foremost, they do have to have what is called an interest meeting. We have an interest meeting once a week. That is a lie. Interest meeting once a month where students are required to attend with their parent or guardian to basically know what we're about. And then after that, they will fill out an application where they have to provide a letter of recommendation, or they have to provide names of a teacher, counselor, and a community member, where we will send them basically a rubric, rate this student on different aspects. And then after they do that, they actually have to do an interview with the staff. So they'll do it with myself and my 2 other teachers. And then at that point, we look at the resources we have and is this the best place to best suit this student of where they're going to be successful? And we do have rubrics for all that we do. So
Great. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Thanks, Ms. Maxey. Appreciate it.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
So I was hoping that this question would come up because you've asked it this last,
What can we do for you? Yes, you caught me. I know we're late tonight, so I'm feeling like we need to hurry, but I do owe you that.
That's okay.
Yes.
I'm from the South, but I try to talk fast.
I thank you for calling me on it. I appreciate it.
Well, I tried. Well, the one thing because I asked my staff, I said, I know this question's coming, guys, so I need to know. So, and I did get it approved from my filter. They said, we asked just for your continued support to public education. Because you are the board trustees, you are the voice of Goshen County School District. And so being able to tell all of the great things that we're doing within this school to the county, that's what we want to see. And specifically being able to help us have our voice, because we have not been established for very long. As you've heard Aaron say before, you heard Mason say before, we just ask that you recognize PRS as a school, because sometimes they get forgotten about, because even when we have students that are participating with THS and Southeast and LFL, you don't hear that their name is PRS, or I should not say their school is PRS. So we ask that because we want people to tell our stories, because we're trying our hardest, but it's so hard. But I can tell you our kids are awesome and that they're doing great things. And I am all about, even when I'm in the dentist chair and they have stuff in my mouth, I'm always talking about PRS. But it's not about our staff, it's about our students. And I just want you to tell of the great things that our kids are doing, not just with PRS, but with THS, with Southeast and LFL. I think every one of them, with LaGrange, sorry, Matt Daly, and Trail and Lincoln, sorry, Lena, sorry, Tyler. But I just ask that you tell our story and tell all the great things, because, right now in public education is getting a black eye. Just be able to tell our story and be the voice of what we can't be right now. So that's my ask. I think that's enough. And if you have $1 million, that too. Good.
Great message. Thank you. All right, next we'll move to committee reports. Let's start with the policy committee. Does anyone from the policy committee want to give us a report?
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
I'd just like to report that we met last April Fool's Day, April 1st, and we re-reviewed 3 policies that have already been to the board for their first reading. They are now being presented for their second reading. They're on building and grounds, non-discrimination and anti-harassment, and artificial intelligence. So they are all in our packets to look at today. And that we are continuing to review and revise policy number 2421. It's online and staff communications / organization. We're mainly looking at the organizational chart right at the moment. So hopefully it will be done soon.
Thank you, Trustee Sharp. Anyone else from policy committee? All right, DAC. Someone from DAC want to give a report? Would arm wrestle? Trustee Alexander?
Well, we went over several different. That's hot. We've been going over girls wrestling. Again, we have so many things going on. We have so many groups of kids that are really getting interested in the wrestling and everything. It's hard to find enough places for them to have their practices and the times where they're overlapping each other and we just don't have the room to try to get everybody in and get the kids the practice that they need. And we're getting into younger and younger that are getting more interested in actually getting into the sports and everything. So wrestling is a big thing. We've been discussing about soccer, kids coming in that. And we have so many sports going now. It's like we got to make sure we have enough to handle the coaches and everything, to handle the different sports as far as wrestling and soccer and just everything else that keeps coming on. And we have younger kids wanting to get programs going, and we have to look at what it's going to cost us to get uniforms and everything else. So it's just a continuous thing. And then we have to decide when we're going to bring it to the board to see if we want to introduce new programs. So
Great.
those will be coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, salary relations. There's a big one. I don't even know. You guys want to give a recap? Just so everyone knows, we've spent a lot of time here recently with salary relations. God, I don't know, you guys. I feel like we've been here every day this week. Was it last Friday? Friday. We spent all day, literally from 8 till I think we got done at 5:15. Going through everything that's being presented tonight. Very, very good conversations. I really, truly appreciate this committee. I enjoy being on this committee. Some days I struggle with it because it's a lot. And sometimes they're pretty intense topics, but we ended on a really good note. I'm very, very thankful for everyone that serves on that committee because it's a lot. It's a big time commitment and big decisions are made. But I don't know if either one of you want to give a recap on any specifics. A lot of what we discussed obviously is going to be before our agenda tonight for us to consider.
Madam Chair, all I would add is to say thank you to everybody that served on the committee. It really, when I first agreed to serve on that committee, I guess I kind of had a cringe moment where I wasn't sure what I was getting into. And actually, I got to meet and work with some great people. We had some really honest and forthright discussions, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I really did.
Good.
And it helped that things came out good. So, and I won't steal the thunder on that one yet.
Just to quantify, so it was over 20 hours
Oh, why do you
of
keep
meetings
track?
that were conducted by the salary relations. The interesting piece of that is 16 hours of that was on what would be equivalent to Red Fridays for staff, but you as board members also participating in that and knowing that you, as we've pointed out, are on a volunteer basis and sacrificing time either with your jobs to make yourself present there, or as in Trustee Gouillard's case, from calving a little bit and having a little break. But we greatly appreciate also your time commitment to that, because without you guys in that setting and seeing and adding to that perspective, it becomes much more difficult. So thank you guys for your time.
Great. With that, we'll move on to public comment. No cards?
No cards.
Okay, all right. Next is the consent agenda. Do any of the board members wish to pull any of the consent agenda items? All right, with that, I'm assuming nobody is interested in pulling any of the consent agenda. May I have a motion then to accept the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
May I have a second? Any discussion or questions? All right, with that, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. So we'll go down to old business. And the first item of old business is considering the approval of proposed revisions to District Policy 3621, which is the buildings and ground maintenance. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Just to note, these revisions are as presented on second and final reading. Okay. With that, all those in favor of approving District Policy 3621, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 7.2. Consider approval of the proposed revisions to District Policy 4300/5100, which is the non-discrimination and anti-harassment procedure. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? So this one is also presented on the second and final reading. With no further discussion, all those in favor of approving District Policy 4300/5100, which is the non-discrimination and anti-harassment procedure, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 7.3, consider approval of proposed new District Policy 4345/5129, which is artificial intelligence, as presented on second and final reading. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Thank you. May I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving District Policy 4345/5129, artificial intelligence, on the second and final reading, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. New business. May I have a motion to consider the action resulting from executive session for the student disciplinary hearing pertaining to student 2024-2025-01 for expulsion as a consequence for violating district policy with the ability to re-enter on January 5 of 2026. May I have a motion? Thank you. Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of accepting the student discipline of expulsion for student 2024-2025-01, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. 8.2, consider approval of district employees' salary and benefits compensation proposal for the 2025-26 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion or any questions about the benefits proposal or the salary? Okay, great. All those in favor of approving the district employee salary and benefits compensation proposal for the 2025-26 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.3, consider approval of offering teaching contracts, renewal of initial contract teachers, and annual employment agreements for the 2025-26 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving offering teaching contracts and the renewal of annual employment agreements for the 25-26 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.4, consider approval of offering an employment agreement for the 25-26 school year to Lori Rawson as a district speech language pathologist for the 25-26 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion?
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
Will this hire help us to do away with the tiny eye, or will we still have to contract with them in order to get some of those needs met?
We will still have some contract, but it will be greatly reduced with the hire of this. The contract with Tiny Eye will actually be reduced 75,000 from where it is at. So we will have a significant reduction in the contracted hours with them.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of offering an employment agreement to Lori Rawson, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.5, consider acceptance of resignations received from certified teaching staff. This will include the resignations received from Trails Special Education teacher Chelsea Hibben and LFL High School Social Studies teacher Neil Baker. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the resignations of Chelsea Hibben and Neil Baker, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.6, consider rescinding the previous contract award that was awarded to Pittman Electric in the amount of $15,300. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just to be clear, this is just the reason we're doing this is just because that was only for the high school gym and didn't include the high school and the middle school, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. So it was discovered later that it would just included one of the schools, whereas the other bid included both schools. So we took the lowest bid. Any other questions? Marcy?
Madam Chair, just so you're all aware and for perfect transparency, Pittman Electric and I have been in conversation and they understand that this is what has to happen.
Sure. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of rescinding the previous contract with Pittman Electric, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.7, consider approval of contracting for gymnasium lighting upgrade projects. This will be with High Point Electric for both gyms in the amount of $15,925. May I have a motion? May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Good on that one, Marcy? All right. All those in favor of approving the contract with High Point Electric in the amount of $15,925 for both gyms at LFL, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.8, consider approval of purchase of new shop truck for transportation. This is to approve contracting with Malloy Auto Group for the purchase of a new shop truck for transportation. That's a mouthful. In the amount of $54,189. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? That's a good question.
Todd is on Zoom. Todd, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can. I didn't quite hear the question.
I can repeat it. What is the definition of a shop truck? What will it be utilized for?
Sure. So our shop truck, which is also basically a service truck that our mechanics use in case, obviously we have a bus that might be broke down somewhere within the district, so that they may be able to take tools that they have on hand to, if it's a possibility, to repair that bus on location, or if we need to tow a bus. Of course, we don't just lightly take into account that we can pull that out. We always take safety measures first, but this truck gives us the things that we need to, we have a trailer that we could potentially haul staff vehicles, or with this particular truck, it's a 3500. We would be able to haul a small bus per se if, we just don't have any places real close. Casper has been the closest place that we go. If we can't fix that within our own shop, and there again, we could haul those to our shop on the trailer that we have. It just gives us another a better vehicle that we can do things with from for our mechanics.
Mr. Warner, in your memo that you have provided to the board, it states that shop and service trucks are 100% reimbursable through WDE.
Correct.
Okay. And your memo also goes on to kind of talk about how you are cycling through your fleet and intend to sell, it looks like, a 98 Dodge pickup. Is that correct?
Yeah, and actually we're gonna sell a 98 Dodge and also an F-150 that is in maintenance. Let me get my notes here. I apologize.
It's a 2009.
Thank you. Yeah. The 09 one, that one has over 200,000 miles on it. And the Dodge was something that had kind of been set aside to potentially get rid of. And then it was the maintenance shop, they needed another pickup to help with snow removal. So and this was before my time, by the way. So they retrofitted it for a plow, and it's a pickup that it's time for it to go before both of these pickups they just need to go before we end up nickel and diming the district to death on repairs.
Sure. Any other questions for Mr. Warner?
Is it because of the way it's being purchased that it's coming from way out in New Mexico and we couldn't purchase more locally?
Correct. So we did try and shop within Wyoming first. And of course, what we utilize is we have that target price that we would like to be under. And of course, if you'll notice in the notes, there's a code on there for the BOCES, which is out of Gillette. And what they do is they have gone through state approval, and they have a contract with the state, and they vet all these companies that, and unfortunately, not one of them is from the state of Wyoming. But when we go through all the things that we have to go through to secure this through WDE, they have already approved all this. So what you're seeing on this pickup has been approved through the WDE. And yes, it is a contract that the state has with this certain particular company out of Gillette that they do this for. And actually not just school districts, they do it for police departments, EMS services, and the likes.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I could also elaborate a little bit. State statute requires that if the purchase exceeds $50,000, that we must issue a formal RFP and go out for bid. We, Todd sought local bids, local being Wheatland, Casper, and they were all over $50,000. BOCES has done that formal RFP process. And that's why we are going to New Mexico. Actually, we're not going to New Mexico. They're going to bring it to us.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was just going to say I'm on the BOCES committee out of Gillette. And we had a discussion over these different things, and they do get a pretty good pricing, more like a fleet price. And even our local community, the city, the police department, they could all go through that if they wanted to and see about getting pricing for vehicles for themselves as well. So it's a good idea.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the purchase of the new shop truck for transportation in the amount of $54,189, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.9, consider approval of purchase of district copy paper in the amount of $25,998, and that's to come from our general fund. May I have a motion? Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of purchasing district copy paper in the amount of $25,998, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.10, consider approval of purchase exceeding $5,000 for district custodial supplies. And this will be for custodial cleaning and disinfecting supplies for THS in the amount of $15,776.60. TMS in the amount of $4,267.16. Lincoln in the amount of $1,814.45. And LFL in the amount of $5,778.67. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion?
Madam
Oh,
Chair,
Yes,
I
trustee
believe
Sharp.
we added a second piece here that was it listed in there?
Yeah. Right here. It's that one.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry.
Do you see it?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm on the old agenda.
that's okay. It happens. It happens to me all the time. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving purchase exceeding $5,000 for district custodial supplies as listed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.11, consider approval of contracting with Writing Revolution for additional professional development services. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Derby, do you mind expanding on what this additional training is? Because if we'll remind the board, we've just approved, right? Writing Revolution. So what is this additional training?
So when they do their training sessions, they're kind of in, I guess, like chunks per se. So like they kind of do them in like I guess like seasonal is how I would describe it. So the one that you approved at the last meeting was just for April only. Actually, it was March and April because I was at the March meeting, and I already have had I want to say about 7 or 8 teachers wrap up their training here in March. And then we actually have had the first session of some April training already occur as well. That'll continue on into May, but being that it started in April, we had that approved. This is for sessions that will begin in May upcoming and then through some of the summer months. You will probably see 1, maybe 2 more just to get the rest of the staff trained. There'll be some additional sessions that they will offer in July and August, but those have not been scheduled yet. And then we're trying to use up the rest of that Y-Built grant money by the end of September. So we're really pushing hard to try to get all of our interventionists, all of our K-5 teachers, and then all of our content secondary teachers trained. So that's the push.
And so this particular one that the board is being asked to consider is for teachers and administrators?
There are a couple principals in there as well, yes, that are we're hoping to get trained and that are included in this list as well, yes.
So ultimately, is it the district's goal to have everyone in the district trained in Writing Revolution?
Almost everyone, yes. As far as like I've kind of phrased it as I'm leaving it open for like CTE teachers and not requiring that per se. But in regards to like science, social studies, SPED, any of our interventionists, any of our ELA at the secondary, and then all of the administrators, that's what we're pushing for that.
Okay.
Math, also leaving the door open. We have had some math teachers getting trained. I think 1 or 2 of these people on this list, I didn't share the list with you, but I think there's in the neighborhood of 20 to 24 people on this list. It does include some math teachers. So we've left that door open. We're not denying anybody that wants the training, but we're requiring it of some of the core content minus math, and then our language, ELA, all of those things as well.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving of the contract with Writing Revolution for additional professional development services, not to exceed $24,855. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Before I move on to 8.12, student representatives, if you guys wish to leave, please feel free to do so. It's getting a little bit later and we started way later. So please feel free to leave whenever you need to. All right, 8.12, consider approval of amendment to current contract for professional development services with Crafted Consulting LLC in the amount of $10,800. May I have a motion? Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? So Mr. Kramer, do you mind addressing, or is this better for Mr. Derby to address the 3 additional days of professional development for principal planning? Can you kind of give us an idea of what that is?
I'll let Mr. Derby go over that.
So this specifically is working with Breeze Daniels out of Thermopolis. She's been with us quite a bit, off and on throughout the last year, to help really guide our principals as far as PLC planning and drive that process. She was part of a school district up in Hot Springs that very similar to ours as far as like where they started and became very, very successful at being really using PLC to really drive things forward. They've, like I said, their ACT scores now probably in the 20-ish range, maybe 21 range, give or take. Their Y-top scores typically 70 to 80% proficient or advanced. And that largely came as a result of the collaborative practices and the things that they're doing. So we're asking her to come in and do some planning with us for next year, as well as meet with our principals to finish out some of the work this year as well, to really continue to get our PLC teams and things on a solid footing.
Great. Any questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving amendment to current contract for professional development services with Crafted Consulting LLC in the amount of $10,800, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.13, consider approval of amendment to current contract for student speech language services with Tiny Eye. May I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
And so this is for an additional amount of $41,250, correct?
That is correct.
And so, Mr. Kramer, do you mind explaining what the amendment is or the addition?
So in some situations, there would be an increase on IEP or the time that they would be providing for speech language, or if we had new IEPs throughout the school year where new students were identified that required speech services, it may in some cases require us to increase the initial contract that we had entered in with Tiny Eye. This also kind of be addressed somewhat in the hiring of the SLP for the 25-26 school year. So hopefully we won't find ourselves in a situation where we would have to be increasing this. This is also a general fund reimbursable amount because it is special education services.
And so the difference is we are now providing, or Tiny Eye is providing services to 72 students, whereas last year they served 59 students.
That's correct.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the amendment to the current contract for student speech language services with Tiny Eye in the amount of $41,250, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 8.14, consider approval of 25-26 virtual education handbook. May I have a motion?
So moves.
Is there a second? Any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the 25-26 virtual education handbook as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. I apologize, Trustee Steinbach. I keep stepping on you and I don't mean to. There's a little delay.
That's okay. I'm trying to get on quick, so it
I
doesn't.
know. I need to just slow down. I apologize. Next on the agenda is board topics for discussion. One of the things that Trustee Hager had brought up during our last meeting was to discuss the purchase value limits of items placed on agendas for board approval. I understand that Ms. Cates has provided us with a couple of attachments for that and kind of explains the history and what the policy is currently. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Cates specifically on that?
I think also she might be able to elaborate a little bit on
Great.
some interpretation, if it so would work for her.
Sure. After this was mentioned last meeting, I went and pulled up policy, and policy does state individual items. What I do recall is there was a request in a climate a number of years back that the direction was to be looking at the total dollar amount to a vendor as opposed to the particular individual dollar amounts. If the desire is to go off of individual, our policy is in place for that. However, policy does have a $5,000 cap in there. In that, in looking at this, the limits that are in policy right now are 1,000 to 1,500 for myself or administrators, superintendent up to $5,000, and then anything over that to the board. I kind of, in thinking about inflation and some of your thoughts, if you're comfortable and you want to stick with the individual, we can do that. But I would wonder if maybe you want to increase the superintendent to 5,000 to 10,000 and look at increasing the 5,000 minimum to come to the board to maybe 10,000. There also were times, just in order to keep processes going, where maybe if I was increased to $5,000, knowing that all expenditures and issuance of checks come on the bill listing and come back to the board, all of these things would require attention of the policy committee and come back here to the board. There just would need to be some direction as to what your thoughts and directive might be.
Yeah, just, I mean, when I brought it up, I was just mainly thinking, inflation wise, and, we've never really had this conversation before since I've been here, so, I mean, I'm just really referring to you guys. If you think this is beneficial and would make something easier, then I'd be for it. If it's not, I just basically brought it up because we kind of spoke about it and I think what's been followed in regards to the consent agenda is that a $10,000 basis has kind of been used. So what could happen is either that 10,000 could change and you could raise what you actually see in consent, or you could keep the 10,000 and consent could be smaller. I mean, it really is what you're comfortable with and what you want to see in the consent agenda.
Is this something that's most appropriate to be kicked over to the policy committee for consideration? And then I would ask if the policy committee could help us to understand better what other districts do, maybe, for some guidance. You're welcome. Any other discussion on that?
Madam Chair, do we need a motion to do that?
Not to kick it down to
Okay.
the policy committee. Thank you, though, but we will need board action when the policy committee makes their recommendation. Trustee Goulart. Anything else the board wants to discuss? So just a couple of things that I wanted to throw out there for discussion with this particular board. Been approached a couple of times about what involvement, if any, the school district has in this, in LifeWise and the services that are being provided to a couple of students over at LFL. I just want to make it really clear, because there have been so many questions, that that is not something that the school district has any participation in. The students can be taken out of school during the middle of the day, per the request of their parent. It's no different than an orthodontic appointment, a doctor appointment, whatever it might be. The school district cannot stop a parent from doing that. The school district is not providing busing. We are not providing staffing. We are not providing anything other than making sure that the child makes it to the bus safely and then comes back into the school after being returned. So just want to throw that out there because I've been asked a lot of questions within the last 2 or 3 weeks about this. Okay.
Trustee Muller. Sorry.
Yes, Trustee Steinbach.
I was just wondering, so when you say make their way out to the bus, are they being bused somewhere to be for that program and then coming back?
Yes, there is a vehicle that picks the kids up. Oh, yes.
They changed their venue and stopped walking halfway and they are walking.
Okay, that's new. So Principal
couldn't hear that.
Gilchrist said that they changed the venue and it's a block away. And so now they walk there. Are they escorted by an adult? Okay. Okay. And the adults are not school district employees, correct? Okay. Did you get all that, Trustee Steinbach? Okay. All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
on that program, don't they do it? It doesn't interfere with any of their main subjects or anything like that. It's towards the late part of the day
Correct. It's
where it does
during
not
core
interrupt with
classes.
any subjects or anything. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Mr. Kramer, did you, because there was a question about this, the coordination between yourself and LifeWise, no issues there. They were very amenable to the needs of the district and to your schedule, to the schedule of the students.
Yes, as a national organization, they have been very good to work with. And the first inclination and their interest and local interest, I was with 3 community members and a Zoom from one of their supervisors at the national level, which is out of Ohio. And that was last May where we participated in that. And then just kind of coordinating with the local individuals here as they've worked individually with Mr. Gilchrist to coordinate whether it would be through scheduling, to look at, as Trustee Muller referenced, the non-core academics. So the times in which students one day out of the week are in the specials, which would be PE, library, or music that is rotated throughout the week. And also because it is one day out of the week, students are still having access to those courses the remainder of the week.
Great. The next subject that I wanted to bring to the board's attention, and this is something we briefly have touched on, is the gun legislation. That is something that we are going to be asked to address here very quickly, partly because there are some specific rules required for us as a board to address and adopt and discuss what that looks like. And we've got to get to work on that before school starts in August. And so we only have a certain time period. With that, we will be offering public forums to allow public input. We'll be advertising that and discussing that more, but did just want to put that out there that that is something that we will be working on. We have 45 days from the day that we start these public forums to when the board makes a decision. That 45 days, if we were to do it before August 1st, just to kind of give us a ballpark, would be June 20th. So we will be jumping on this fairly quickly. My understanding is we don't have a lot of options. It's primarily surrounding education and training with the open carry, but that's something that we will be addressing here very shortly. Any questions on that? Okay. The last thing that I want to talk about, and I'm sorry, you guys, I don't mean to make these meetings longer, but I do think it's important for transparency and just to dispel any concerns, is I'd like to talk a little bit about the budget. And Ms. Cates, I'll ask you to give us a high level, but I think it's really important to understand the timeline. We had concerns about grant monies, not being renewed or reassigned or whatever the word might be in December, and it's created a pretty tense and tough environment for a while. And we were kind of in limbo over that until the legislation session started. With that, the board and Mr. Kramer and Ms. Cates have been working really hard in the budget, trying to figure out what that looks like. There's been a decline in our ADM, but thank goodness we used the average over 3 years, and that was to our benefit. That will not be the case in the future. And that helped us this year. It'll be a problem in the future. And then I'll have Ms. Cates briefly explain, and in layman's terms as best as possible, the ECA, and we were kind of considering whether or not that was going to happen and what that looked like. But, for the most part, I think it's important for the public and this board to understand Ms. Cates is very conservative. The state also made an error and owes us a significant amount of money. That helped us as well this year. So there were several things that went into this. A lot of thought, a lot of time went into the budget discussions, especially salary relations. But I think it's important that we be transparent and have these discussions as to why the decisions were made when they were and why we had to wait so long to figure it out. So do you mind giving us just kind of an overview of that, Marcy? Marcy, pretend you're talking to me and you have to dumb it down because I always struggle with all of the budget stuff.
And I'm sorry, could I make one request before you begin?
Sure.
We've been swimming in acronyms. Could ADM, and I'm sure other acronyms are going to come up, just for folks who might not know what those mean, please.
Sure. Thank you for the reminder.
Well, Madam Chairwoman, I'm happy to share, and I think it's really important to think about the timeline. It was fall of the year when we were told that some of these grants weren't reissued, and at that point in time, we had several positions that we had to try and find funding for, and how were we going to make the budget work? We were at the mercy of the legislature, knowing that the legislative session wouldn't begin until January. We then got into the legislative session, and if you recall, both houses could not reach a budget. And in not reaching a budget, there was then not an ECA. And ECA stands for External Cost Adjustment. I like to think of it similar to a cost of living adjustment, like what you see in corporate America or with other employers. When there was not a budget reached, we did see where at the last minute there was a adjustment made in the recalibration bill. And that adjustment for Goshen County School District yields us $1.3 million. Along with the $1.3 million, there was an error made by WDE in last year's funding model. The funding model for last year is what provides us money for this year. The error was in the amount of $500,000. So it was money that we did not plan for. It was money that we're benefiting from. We're receiving that at the present time, but it was revenue not budgeted. So here we are with $1.8 million, which is a good thing, but timing does not look very well on our part. Mr. Kramer and I and Mr. Derby had a number of conversations trying to determine how we could fund these positions, knowing that some of the positions are very unique and could not come out of general fund. General fund is what we talk about when we talk salary and benefits, when we talk about the salary relations work that we just did. So we had to be creative in how we could fund some of those positions, and we were able to make it work. But I think it's really important to recognize that $1.8 million in seeing that $1.8 million coming into the district, as Chairwoman Moeller referenced, we did benefit from ADM, that being average daily membership. We received the benefit of the greater of last year's ADM or a 3-year rolling average. Our 3-year rolling average was such that it equals last year's ADM. We are pretty well assured that that's not going to happen next year. And we know that a student equates to $20,000. So I'm guessing Mr. Kramer's probably going to share our enrollment projections here pretty soon. We'll be able to see what we probably need to be thinking about next year when we're working through this exercise. But we were very fortunate. We were able to utilize some cash reserves, just over $1 million, and still keep our percentage at 16.43%. Through 2028, we can maintain cash reserves up to 30%. I don't want to get cash reserves anywhere close to that. I think Mr. Kramer repeatedly says we're not a bank, and I mean, we're to be taking care of the students. That's why we're here. But in 2028, they could tell us your cash reserves have to get back to 15%. When we're at a 16.43, that's very manageable, and we could get down to 15% if we were told we had to. What happens with those cash reserves is if they exceed that allowable amount, that's money that goes back to WDE or the state. So, you know, I'm very thankful to live and work in a district such as ours, that we had a number of positions that we were able to revert to other grants for fiscal year 25, which generated us some savings that was able to roll into the budget for fiscal year 26. When I present to you the preliminary budget in May, we're going to talk about the changes of the 25% property tax reduction. As a school district, general fund and the entitlement that we receive, the guarantee that we receive from the state, that's backfilled. But we do have 2 pots of money, that being the BOCES mill levy and the rec board mill levy. Those are not backfilled. So when we talk about the money that those 2 earn in May, we're going to see a reduction. That it's important that we recognize and we understand that we still are affected by that 25% property tax reduction. We just are not in what we're talking about today.
I just like to add, you know, just to kind of put it in perspective, and as many of you know, I have sports is a big thing when we talk about points and things. And when I watch sports, they talk about a huge swing, you know, where a foul was committed on the other end and it was a 5-point swing. To put that in comparison to where we were at with our carryover and how dramatic of a shift that was, 1.8 million means that had we not received the external cost adjustment, which is certainly quite possible in that legislative session. Also, if we would not have received the $500,000 underpayment from the Department of Education, that would have put us in a situation to be in this chair approving what we just did in salary relations. We would have taken our carryover down to 7% had we not had that, which would be in a position where Marcy and I have shared that is not in a good position financially. That's how quickly it dramatically shifted from February until this date, when we first learned in February that there was the $500,000, and then in March and in late March, learning that we had the external cost adjustment. And so when you have that short of a timeline where that significant of amount of dollars comes into your budget, it becomes very difficult to say, wow, how do we shift from a position to where we were going to really have to make some real challenging decisions on what we were able to maintain as a district to an influx of 1.8 million to where we're able to provide the maintenance of our positions that we had, in addition providing individual buildings with some options to look at some positions for the next year that we could actually fill some of the needs within the school district. But that illustration for me of where we're at sitting with carryover of 16.4% to very easily having to be in the same chair in this meeting asking you to go all the way down to 7%. It's that significant of a swing.
Thank you both for that. Any questions on that? All right.
I'm sorry, I do have one.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure when I say this that I'm being perfectly accurate, because everything that we've just went through with this preliminary budget, with the exception of CEP, and that's, I guess, the item where I'm not sure if I'm saying this correctly, that's the only federal money that was even factored in. So we don't know yet what federal money will come to us in the future as of yet.
You can answer that a little bit.
Yes and no. CEP is the community eligibility provision associated with providing free meals to all kids in the district. When I provide the preliminary budget in May, you will see the special revenue fund, food service, all those kind of things. We have not talked federal money at all. With CEP, what is included in the budget that you guys saw at the work session and that we talked through in salary relations is what the general fund needs to provide to food service in order to maintain the validity of the food service fund. So there's a transfer from general fund to food service, but there's no federal revenue or food service revenue in the general fund.
Any other questions or topics? Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll be as brief as I can.
Oh, you're fine. I don't mean to keep jumping on it.
Just this last thing, and it's a bug, Madam Chair, that I'd like to put into the minds of yourself and our fellow trustees. And it's this thought, and you mentioned it, Mr. Kramer's mentioned it, brought it to our attention that everything that we are going to have in this coming year is based on ADM. And we're coming into an environment where we are going to have to be competitive to keep ADM. And I think, without getting too deep in the weeds, one of the things I've been brainstorming is ways that we could have discussions about how are we going to be competitive in that new environment where parents are going to have options that before now they wouldn't have necessarily had. We have the staff, we have the facilities, we have the resources. I don't believe for a moment that if we set our sights on it, that we can't be competitive with anything, with any other option that parents might look at. But I think that's something we're going to have some discussions about, brainstorm, maybe some of those discussions. I hate to use the C word because we've had so much of it, but if it had to be a committee, maybe that's an idea.
I was like, which C word are we going down here? Whoa.
Yeah, committee. Sorry. Didn't mean to startle anyone. Yeah. I'm getting used to acronym. I'm warming up to them. But that's just it. It's, Mr. Kramer brought us some good news a month ago about how our trajectory is going the right way as far as student proficiency. And I think maybe one of the things that this board could discuss and contemplate is making a bold statement about whether or not the proficiency or the metric that, and I think it comes probably from the State Board of Education, because I've heard the number 41 percentile get thrown around on a few different occasions. And I think that's a wildly low number. That's a wildly low metric. Maybe that's one area. And I'm just saying maybe that's one area, and I hope this provokes some thought. Maybe that's one area where this board could lead and say, hey, you know what, if the State Board of Education says that's an acceptable metric, that's up to them. But we're going to lead and we're going to demand something a little higher, maybe a lot higher, actually. But so, and that wouldn't be a silver bullet by any stretch of the imagination, but I was hoping maybe I could provoke some other thoughts in the minds of the other board trustees, and maybe this is something we could find a way to pursue. Perhaps, well, not perhaps, I think it would be absolutely vital that anything we do would include the teachers and parents, because one of the things that every successful business does is determine what would cause a customer to decide they don't want their product, and then come up with ways to appeal to those individuals who'd be most likely to decide that they don't want their product. Maybe that's not the best analogy there is. I know some might object to using the thought that this could be run as a business, but I think actually that's probably not a bad way to go. And we might find ourselves where we really only have two choices. We're going to have to decide that we're going to be competitive and be bold about it, or we're going to manage the decline. And I would go so far as to say that every trustee sitting on this board did not run for their seat so that they could sit here and manage the decline. So with that, I'm done speaking on it. I just hope I provoked some thought from everybody, and I look forward to hearing from you on what you think. Thank you.
Any further topics? All right. Trustee Goulart, can I ask for just a little bit of clarification? When you are referring to competition, I guess, for the school district, are you referring to the new legislation with the vouchers, or what are you referring to?
That's certainly, yeah. That's, that's the most dramatic change to the environment that we're going to be facing here in the future.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I know what that question would be for me when my daughters were going through grade school and high school and all that. But I think if a family, if a mom and dad are going to make a decision to either not send their child, their young child, through the public school system at all, or potentially remove them from the public school system, which that's not an easy thing for someone to decide to do, because there's a lot of things that you have to figure into that. What are the things that would drive them to make that choice above and beyond the fact that they're going to have a $7,000 voucher? Okay. But price is an issue in the absence of value. So there's going to be more to it than just the fact that they're getting a $7,000 voucher. The things they're considering are performance, the environment, school discipline. We could go through a whole laundry list of the things that these parents are going to consider, and even the perceptions, both real and not real. How do we deal with that? Really, I think what I'm talking about, to go back to the business analogy, we're talking about marketing our product, really, and how we're going to do that. But if we're going to market our product in a bold way and say that we're going to deliver, well, then we'd better deliver too. So we've got a lot to talk about how we're going to continue to fight for ADM. Let's fight to keep it.
Sure. Thank you. I agree with that. Right? I agree with that. I think that our best advertisement is our students, right? And how well they're doing and how well our staff are doing. But I agree with that. That's good
Well,
thoughts.
and Madam Chair, I think the thing that came out of being in that committee, the Salary Relations Committee, is that we're very serious about being a good employer. That's actually, that was the payoff for me. We are not fooling around when we say that we want to be an employer that teachers and staff want to stay with.
Yeah.
So now that we've, at least for the next year anyways, now that we've secured our position as a good employer, now we need to think about how we're going to secure our position as a provider of a quality service.
Sure. I think they're hand in hand. I appreciate that. Okay, 10.1, future meetings. So the next regular board meeting will be on Tuesday, May 13th at Lincoln at 6 p.m. This meeting will also include the recognition of district retirees and years of service and scholarship presentations to the 2024 student representatives to the board. And with that, Mr. Kramer, if you'd like to give your report.
Well, the first item, just as kind of referenced before, our monthly sharing of ADM and where we're at average daily membership. And this is the students that we see in our buildings. I'll enlarge that. The one positive, the lack of red indicates that if there was a slight decline, it was actually less than 1.0 or 1.1 student equivalent. So from February to March, there was some pieces there that we had some increases. There are some slight declines there also, but actually I kind of messed that up there. What I want to actually go scroll down to is where we're at, because there was a change from 1580 to 1574. So again, a slight decline from February to March. That actually is an error on the coding on my colors. So I apologize for that. Go ahead.
Mr. Kramer, just for reference, when I'm looking at the 3-year average and last year's actual, it was 1,603.
Yes. And so what you want to explain how and where we take that off the monthly piece for the yearly and how they're funded based on that information?
The ADM is actually an annual number. So it's May's number, but each month is essentially a compilation or cumulative that we work through. So then at the end of May, the last 3 years are calculated for a 3-year average.
So you have a slight decline. There is that the previous year in the 1597, that 3-year average is coming into play significantly. You'll notice there that our largest number there is right on that edge of that 3-year average. And so that will be a decline for the next year, and how we kind of to look at that and what we have to adjust to. One of the things that we continually do at the building level when we look at our budget, we take a look at the model at each individual building and then see if, when we do have resignations, if there's an area in which we can start combining classes, different sharing opportunities and such. And we've done that over the years to try to modify our total FTE to get to where we need to be. Next item that I had, it was in your packets, is district graduations. One thing for new board members, we don't necessarily assign. We welcome however many board members are able to attend. You are also not expected to attend every one based on your schedule. What the idea is that we have a balance of just at least a few board members who are able to attend each one. But in that time period between now and the next couple of weeks, if you would let me know which ceremonies you would be available to attend or interested in attending, that way I can generate a list of those board members and we can have the appropriate seating. I know principals like to have plenty of time to prepare for their stage and where you'll be sitting and how to accommodate those things. One thing you'll notice, Platte River School does hold their ceremony on Wednesday, May 14th. The others are on Sunday, May 18th. And it does make for a rather quick commute to each building. So know that you're usually moving rather quickly between ceremonies from one to the other. And so if you're preferring to kind of take your time, you certainly can go to the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock and miss the 2:30, or you can have 1 and 2:30, however or whichever way you feel it accommodates your schedule the best.
Mr. Kramer, historically, Lorene has had like a little sheet that she has us mark and get to you. I assume she's going to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So if you just be thinking about that now on what works best for you. The only other thing I had, I just want to thank Kim Cothra for stepping in and taking notes in a situation to help Lorene out. And so greatly appreciate that. We had joked all day about Kim and her taking of minutes and things. And she said, you did a great job. I'm impressed. Your poker face is a lot better than mine. Sometimes my facial expressions give me away, and she was worried that hers might be on this evening also. But again, appreciate her time and
She did great.
thanking the minutes.
All right. With that, we are adjourned.